Why has Canada failed to do big things over the last few decades? We have the people, the skills, and the money. So what's wrong? Listen to Dan Gardner describe how big things get done on this NSP Short.
Yeah, I've been following this, really closely, as you can imagine. It's very exciting. I mean, this is one of on the positive side of the ledger, post Donald Trump becoming president. One of the really exciting things is I am hearing from all sorts of Canadians, corporate executives, government officials, a level of ambition that is frankly un-Canadian. It's just, one of my great complaints about this country is like our national motto is good enough. Whereas what I'm hearing now is people saying, no, we got to go big. And let's talk about like big, bold new ventures. Now, when you do that, you're going to also surface a lot of nutty ideas that have to be, identified and swept aside. But, that's what ambition requires. And it's very exciting to hear people talking like that. And so I'm thrilled that seems to be, the government's intention. But of course, there's a wide gap between intention and reality. So what are you looking for? One of the first things I say about successful projects is, first of all, the standard device is identify the recurring human factors which undermine project. We're in Canada now. See, I've trained myself to say project because that's how Americans say it, but right. We're in Canada, so we can say project. Let's be nationalists. Project. So the first thing to do is to identify those human factors and be absolutely crystal clear about those human factors which cause project failure. And those factors are politics, culture, and psychology. Politics is politics writ large. Basically, that's, who gets what. Because any big project, let's be nationalists. Any big project, there are, there's money, there's status, there's power, there's all sorts of good stuff that people want to get their fingers on. And culture. And if you look at every one of those factors that as they are at work in a project, what they tend to do is they tend to cause people to engage in quick and superficial planning. So you engage in quick and superficial planning because if you're a contractor and you want to win the contract, you want to have that bid as low as possible. And quick and superficial planning allows you to overlook problems. Mm-hmm. And if you overlook problems, then you can have a nice low bid. And then later you can discover the problems and contact your lawyers and hash it out in court, mm-hmm. right? There's all sorts of different ways in which politics is encouraging quick and superficial planning. Then there's culture. Culture, this is particularly true in the private sector. What's an executive? An executive is somebody who does stuff. They execute. We get things done. What's planning? Planning is bureaucratic. It's talk. It's paperwork. It's flow charts, right? It's, planning is stuff you get out of the way so you can get on with the real stuff, right? So the culture is what? The culture is encouraging you to, again, be engaged in quick and superficial planning so that you can start digging holes, which is the real manly work, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's psychology. And Daniel Kahneman's book, go look at Daniel Kahneman's book, which is the best overview of psychology, the basic psychology. And if you look at all the many, many components that are present in Daniel Kahneman's book, you will find a whole bunch that are relevant to big projects. And every single one of those elements leans in the same direction. They all lean in favor of overconfidence. They all lean in favor of, we know enough. We've got this figured out. Let's get going. So guess what? Psychology is also encouraging us to engage in quick and superficial planning and start delivery. And as a result, you've got politics, culture, and psychology all leaning in favor of quick and superficial planning and an early start to delivery, which is why that is the pattern that you see in projects over and over and over again. And when you do that, you end up with failure. And so then the question is, you want to push back. And what do you start to look for when you push back against that? First of all, you look for experienced project managers who actually understand that politics, culture, and psychology matter. And they understand that they've got to push back against that stuff. So how do you push back in a practical sense? Very quickly, there's a number of points. One of the most important is this. It's to start with asking why. Every project should start with why. Why are we doing this? Right? Simplest thing in the world. You might say, well, that's ridiculous. Doesn't every project start that way? And the answer, no, they do not.
They don't.
They just sort of materialize. Somebody sort of says, let's build a bridge to the island. And somebody else says, yeah, bridge would be great. And somebody else says, oh, bridge, but no, not that location. Put it down over here. And somebody else says, a bridge is too expensive. What have you done? You've just skipped the single most important factor, which is, why on earth are you doing this? And there's a whole host of reasons why you must have clarity on the purpose of the project before the project takes the next step. That rarely happens. And particularly it happens with public projects. I mean, the military is a classic example, right? So why are you doing this? And the answer is always, from a military perspective, it's to produce a capability, right? We need to be capable of doing something or other, right? So it's the capability. That is never how it's presented in a press release from the government of Canada. It's always jobs, and a new capability for the Canadian Armed Forces.
Yeah.
Why is that? Because of competing political demands. But what happens when you have two horses riding in opposite directions and you try to ride both at the same time?
Yeah.
Right? That's an illustration of, I could go on for ages about this, but that's one of the reasons why so many big projects fail, because they fail to follow what are fairly commonsensical steps that need to be taken methodically, rigorously, and they will never be taken. That will never happen if the people in charge of the project don't say, no, stop. Before we take the next step,
right.
I want to hear why we're doing this in 3 sentences, and only 3 sentences.